Welcome everybody, thank you for tuning in for another review from our 2022 Emtb Shootout. We are checking off the list of Enduro category bikes from this year's test. And today we are going to be reviewing the Scott Ransom eRide 920. Before we get too far into ride impressions on trail characteristics, we're going to do a little intro into the spec and geo on this bike. Unfortunately, due to COVID supply chain issues, I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about that, we only could get a size medium bike. It seems like every year there's one medium that shows up. $5,499. It is the most affordable bike in this year's shootout. Is 180 millimeters of travel front and rear. There's a RockShox Zeb R up front with a Fox Float X2 performance rear shock. SRAM NX and SX 12-speed drivetrain is what came on it. You might notice that derailleur looks really fresh and clean. It did self-destruct on us. Brian might have helped with that, but that's okay. Brakes are Shimano MT520 203 rotors and Synchros MD30 wheels, 29-inch wheels front and rear. We've got a Bosch CX Gen4 drive unit with a power tube 625 watt-hour battery and the Bosch Purion display up on the bars. The geometry on the size large has a 470 mil reach, 649 stack height, 465 chain stays. There's a 1,287 millimeter wheelbase with a 22 mil bottom bracket drop. It has a 64-degree head tube angle and 76.1 degree seat tube angle. Let's start with the climbing. Nick, especially when you were behind me yesterday as I was climbing on this thing. Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, this bike is man, it climbs well. It's got loads of power. The tune they have on this Bosch system is, as most Bosch systems, tons of torque, lots of power. You can soft pedal this or hard pedal it and you're rewarded both ways. 180 mils of rear travel on this thing, keeps suspension locked in and running really well, man. Tons of grip on this, and you were out climbing me on every bike, and I know you weren't putting in as much work.
It went up everything.
It was, I mean, really impressive. We do like the Bosch unit quite a bit, but I feel like this bike, it could be just a suspension which carries over to the downhill traits, but it's just so supple and so plush. The traction is insane. It climbs well and it's really comfortable, which is awesome. And it's something that's kind of hard.
Flick around those tight corners that we were sessioning,
no
going
problem.
up those, easy.
All right, so moving into, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum and bike park laps. At Windrock Bike Park, one of the most rugged and rough areas you can ride.
Yeah, not a lot of bikes really felt like instantly comfortable sessioning Windrock, but this did. Yeah. Like I instantly got on it and I was like, ooh, all right, yeah. We're gonna party. And it held up to partying. And it liked to party, soft off the top, which I appreciate. It's just my style. Soft off the top, but progressive, plenty of support. It was easy to flick around, jump. It did everything really well for me. I really got into this bike. For sure. It was hard to give up.
I looked at this bike, it's mismatched suspension. It's got non-series brakes from Shimano on it. I was like, it's a little bit lower spec, maybe it won't hang, but man, what a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, downhill, it holds the line as good as any other bike, maybe better than most. And it's just impressive all around.
Cornered well. I mean, in those rock gardens, jumping into the rock gardens, and like you're moving direction with ease, and great traction. Up at the top there when it was super steep and sketchy.
It's great.
Sweet. It's a sweet.
It's a sweet
bike.
bike.
It is a sweet bike. This is one that we rode a bit at home. Mostly Sean and I think, were the only ones who rode this, and we didn't really want to, as with all of the bikes, talk too much about it with the other testers, so that everyone kind of has their own open mind going into it. And like Nick said, right, you look at a Zeb R fork and, the Float X2 shock, which is not a terrible shock by any means, but, yeah, MT520 brakes, you just kind of look at it and you find that it's $5,500 compared to 10, 13 plus $1,000 bikes that are here, and you're kind of like, man, I just don't know what's it gonna do. And from the first ride, right? I mean, the first time you dropped in on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing.
No.
I wouldn't change a thing.
You could literally buy this and ride it anywhere, and it's set, it's fine.
Yeah, that fork is great too.
Yeah, it's great.
I know, and like you could do the little upgrade if you wanted, you know, to the internals and,
Yeah,
and make it a better fork.
in
But
it.
at the same time, I mean,
I
like
don't think you need to.
we had 8 guys here that are, you know, from intermediate to pretty advanced level riders, and none of us were like, man, this bike would be great if it had a better fork. Right? Like no one said that, which is really impressive actually, and a testament to that fork as well. But and I think Scott does a really good job with their rear suspension, like from shock tuning and I guess their suspension platform. They do a great job, whether it's an analog or an e-bike. I'm very impressed, and it's like I kind of always say, like, it's sad because like we don't get to test or ride that many Scotts, and I don't see that many of them on the trail. I don't think they focus that much energy or effort into the North American market, which is a bummer because their bikes ride very
every one of their bikes we end
well.
up on is really good.
Yeah, so Scott, Europe, listen to your guys in North America, send some more bikes over here.
Hit me up.
All right, so yeah, I would say, I guess the one thing we did have issue with, these wheels held up? Did you have to true these?
I had to tighten these up a little bit.
Okay, which happened to just about every bike.
Every bike.
This rear derailleur did come apart on the trail. It did fail.
It was a
pretty amazing
It was
fashion.
a mechanical failure, I think, more than just a strike on the derailleur.
Yeah, so that would be something I would upgrade on the bike down the road. I mean, obviously it gets you out and you're pedaling, but down the road, I'd
Win
say.
it out and replace it?
Yeah, exactly. So either way, I mean, it's a 180 bike. I would imagine that's going to polarize some people, be like, oh, that's too much.
But I don't think it is too much. I didn't get that
For
feeling.
me, where I
didn't get that feeling.
where I ride, like around Bend in the Northwest, pedaling focused, 180 is probably too much for me where I ride. Just it's too big for the trails I use. But
is it really?
I don't know. It still feels very lively. It has a ton of mid-stroke support.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like a big.
Because I feel like, especially with that Bosch, like even though it is 180, you can go for a trail ride and it's still pretty dang fun.
Yeah,
like, okay, you're not going to have maybe that feedback for the little pop on the tiny little features, but like it's still plenty active and maneuverable and lively.
I guess if I was going to buy one e-bike that could cover everything I ride, it'd be a really close contender with
a wide variety of terrain that this thing would be a lot of fun on.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Frenchie, let's pick a number 1 to 10.
I'm gonna go 9.9.
Oh,
that's a high score, sir.
That is a high score.
Well, I don't feel like I can give it like a perfect 10 because is it perfect?
All
it
things
checks
considered.
off a lot of my boxes.
Okay.
It does.
Nick?
I don't know. I think I'd put this. I think I'd put this probably 8 to 8.5 for me.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little bit long for long-legged for me, but the size medium we were on, I think
travel.
Long in travel.
Yeah, I think it's not the shortest wheelbase bike.
But I think the wheelbase and reach on the size medium made up for some of that and kept it pretty lively.
Okay. I for sure I would pick a large myself.
Same.
Yeah.
Man, I give this bike, I have a 9 to 9.25, which is very high.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know that we've given that many scores into that over 9 range, but I mean, all things considered, you know, $5,500.
Yeah, come on.
The price alone.
And it rips.
Come on.
The price alone.
Come on.
Okay, all right.
I mean, and then you have on the other end of the spectrum where bikes are costing 10, 11, 12, and 13, and the ones that we have here,
yeah,
it's good.
Okay, all right, well, there's that. The Scott Ransom eRide, you know, an incredible bike, a really great value, I would say, especially amongst the other competitors in our shootout. If you want to see where this bike stacks up in our grand finale episode, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. I know the rest of our crew, shoot, I don't even know where this bike's gonna end up. Kind of depends on everyone else's votes, but there's a shootout going down, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I don't think you're going to want to miss that grand finale, so make sure you stay tuned for future videos coming out on all the bikes in our Enduro category, as well as that big final episode. coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you out on the trails.